Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Live with me, Lewis Mason, and our regular duo of Leicester City legends Matt Elliott and Gerry Taggart. Coming up, we'll review the week's action from around the footballing world, put Gerry and Matt's FA Cup knowledge to the test in this week's head-to-head challenge. It's called Luck of the Draw, and we'll also look ahead to Leicester's game this coming Saturday away against Fleetwood.
Live on LCFC.com, Facebook and Twitter. You're listening to Thursday Night Live on LCFC Radio.
So, very good evening and welcome to the show, and evening to Matt and Gerry. How are we?
Good evening, Lewis. Very well. Good evening, Matthew.
Gerald, you okay? Glad to see you've covered up that horrendous T-shirt of yours before the programme kicked off.
Glad to see you haven't covered up that horrendous jumper of yours.
I know, yeah. I've been spotted sea fishing earlier.
It's a student's jumper, that, mate.
I'm a student of life. How you been, Lewis?
Well, yes. Do you like the jacket?
No, you're too smart.
These young lads nowadays.
It's the sort of thing we used to be able to get away with
back in the day. Now, the reason you're probably wearing a jumper is you haven't quite, defrosted from last night.
Just feel the cold, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Holmes Park.
Oh, you're not wrong. The lads told me wrap up and be prepared on that gantry, but it was swirling wind, wasn't it? Icy cold last night. I had a scarf on, turned into a hat. But the football was quite good, though, quite entertaining. Unlike myself, seemingly. But yeah, that was good. It was the first time I've seen the 23s play this season, and it was pretty impressed with them. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really beat 7-1 in their last game against Barnsley, and then following that up with a 6-1 win last night. So how did the game go? Yeah,
well, it's no small achievement, is it, being second in that Premier League 2, do they call it?
2, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some achievement, isn't it? Tottenham, surprisingly, down at the bottom. Man United and Man City in the bottom third, stroke quarter, I think, as well. So, yeah, a few turn-ups there, and people would be surprised to see Leicester up near the top. But deservedly so. You don't go on an 18-game winning run for no reason, do you? And you could see why last night. Obviously, personnel changes from game to game, with it being a development squad, where the first team members come in, back from injury, etc., as Robert Hoof was last night. Just eased his way back in, although it wasn't easy for him early on. But the thing that struck me about Leicester was not necessarily the slickness of their play, although there was some nice football at times in phases, but it was the energy of them. And Gerry asked me before we came on air, but what style did they play? And I said, so intense, quick to close down. And Tottenham played it in Leicester's hands a little bit. And Gerry said, well, that's what Steve Beaglehole will get them, like that, on the front foot, all little signals from one, trigger points for each other. Once one goes, within an instant, they were all closing down, hustling and harrying. Tottenham couldn't handle it the majority of the time. They started well, actually, went 1-0 up, and Leicester came back into it. The big, strong physical side as well, strong, I'm going to say, and very high energy performance. 3 set pieces they scored. Tottenham had 2 sent off ridiculously on both occasions. But even without that, you felt like Leicester had too much.
And I was in Claude Puel's press conference earlier today talking about the FA Cup, which we'll talk about a lot more later. But the question was asked, will any of those under-23s get the chance? He had a bit of a grin on his face and said, maybe. We'll see how it goes. There won't be loads of the 23s, but is there anyone in particular who stood out for you who could have that chance to crack into the first?
Well, not that he particularly stood out, because I know myself it's quite difficult coming back after a long time out through injury and playing at that level and motivating yourself. He did his best, and Robert Hoof is likely to be, do you think, maybe in the squad? I don't know. I don't think he'll get a starting position.
He suggested he wouldn't be.
Maybe a little bit early for him. But the most obvious candidate was George Thomas. Found himself in the squad against Liverpool. Looked lively. In different areas, he was switching from left to right flank. Pinched himself. We've had a couple of goals he got. So he's ticking along nicely. Didn't do himself any harm at all. And he would bring probably something a little bit different if he was given an opportunity. I wouldn't be surprised if he was involved in the squad, at least at the weekend.
And Gerry, you saw the development squad in the earlier stages of the season, so seeing them coming through, it must be great to see that development and getting the results that they have been the last few games.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously I've spoke about Steve Bigelhull, and he's very, very good with working with what he's got, and we've seen the likes of Harvey Barnes going in the Barnes, and he's been recalled, so he is definitely one to watch, I would think, for Saturday.
But it didn't feature last night, so you would think, okay, saving him for the weekend on the bench at least.
Yeah, we've seen the clips of Josh Knight coming on playing in the cup.
Did well last
Hamza
night.
Chowdhury coming on against Tottenham.
Hamza was suspended last night.
Yeah,
he would have.
I mean, just in general.
Yeah.
And as you say, George Thomas getting in the matchday squad for the game against Liverpool. So very, very promising, and great momentum going with the under-23s at the minute. And so I suppose the pressure is slightly on Claude Puel because of the form that the under-23s are in, for maybe to blood one or two in the FA Cup this Saturday. So
it gives him extra confidence to do so.
Correct.
If they're playing at that level, albeit development stroke 23s, it's still a good standard. There's good players they're playing against, and rather than be up the top and flourishing and confident than down the bottom like Tottenham's players are, and you're more likely to introduce them, aren't you, and deepen the strength of that squad.
Yeah, it certainly was a fantastic night for the 23s, just a couple of points off Liverpool at the top now, so really good news there. Another story this week is the Wales management position at the moment. John Hartson has been talking out this week thinking that Ryan Giggs will be the person to get it. John himself has said something I quite fancy, and a couple of others have put their names in the frame as well. But how do you feel that position is going to be filled?
Well, personally, I'd give it, if there are the three names in the, two names and whoever else in the...
Bellamy as well.
Bellamy or something.
Chucked in. Might as well stick Sav in there as well.
Well, I was going to say, I don't know what coaching qualifications John Hartson's got, but I know he has been involved in, the Wales set-up in the past when Chris Coleman was a manager. Yeah, I think he might have done some coaching at Swansea as well. I'm not too sure about that. Don't quote me on that, anybody. But... I think the standout candidate is Ryan Giggs for me. He's been scrapping around, itching for a job since he left Manchester United. He had a really successful time for me as caretaker manager. Not transformed the back end of their season, but definitely turned the results around after Louis van Gaal left. So I think he should be given a chance. Wales are well known for that. They give Mark Hughes his first managerial career. He's gone on to bigger and better things. Similarly to, David Speed. I think that was his first manager.
Speed,
Gary Speed. Sorry, I was thinking David Speed. Gary Speed. Give him his first managerial role, even though he had been involved in a assistant manager's role at various clubs. So I think Ryan Giggs, looking at it, is the standout candidate from a Welsh perspective.
Yeah, of not many. Because, ideally, you would think for your national team manager, surely he's got to have some experience at some level in that management role, specific.
I think what Ryan Giggs...
Giggs was fitted because he's played at the top level, and he knows what that takes. And he's had minor experience, as you say, caretaker stroke assistant.
And what that shows, even though he was only in charge of Manchester United for such a short time, he was able to turn the results around immediately. So
he's not fazed by that. He knows what it takes.
And like you say, he's played at the top all his career. He's played at the biggest club in the world all his career, and on top of that, obviously, he played multiple times for his country.
Yeah,
now,
he's obviously got respect.
If you're going to give someone their first managerial job, like Wales, as I say, Wales have been known to do, then why would you look any further than Ryan Giggs?
I suppose they're probably looking for a happy medium between Tony Pulis, who's been mentioned, and Ryan Giggs, somewhere in between. If you could sort of blend those two together, very difficult, I know, but it very rarely is an ideal world, is it? But because the experience,
you'd need some chemical set.
Well, exactly.
A happy medium between them two.
But you know what I'm saying? If you had someone with the experience of setting up a team, the pragmatism of actually proving they can go and do that over a period of time, that Pulis has forged that reputation for himself, and Giggs, he is a little bit unknown, but
He's got the respect.
Yeah, he's got respect. And he can always, worst way, if he wants
He can
extra
walk in,
assistance, he just brings people with him as
correct.
well, doesn't he?
Yeah, you bring somebody with experience. But
capability.
he walks into any room in world football, he's got respect, Ryan Giggs.
Well,
never mind the Wales dressing room.
No, of course. But you say about that, the chemicals, I mean, what about Giggs bringing in Peerless under him? Never know.
Well,
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
Of course, great things that Chris Coleman did, and Ocean Roberts was his number 2 when he was doing that, and I think that's another name that's been thrown into the hat. Would that continue that momentum that Coleman
had built? Say that name again, please?
I said it quickly. Ocean Roberts?
That's good. It's a Gaelic name.
I don't know.
I'll accept. Yeah, Oisin we would say in Irish, but Oisin is okay. Oisin.
I'll accept both.
Yeah.
How would him staying on in a managerial role help that kind of just?
Well, again, that
Wales?
is something that Ryan Giggs or whoever may look at, because he obviously knows the players, but I'm sure Ryan knows the majority of the players anyway. But obviously how everything works, especially when you're travelling to away games, because it's not just like the good old days where you fly in the day before, play the game and then fly back. Nowadays in international football it lasts near enough 2 weeks or 10 days at least. It's a 10-day window that the players are together. So that's the most important thing, is how do you prepare the players for being together for 10 days. And so he has a lot of experience at going through that, being through that with Chris Coleman, and that could become invaluable experience that Ryan Giggs could take on board.
Yeah, because a lot of what Wales achieved, team spirit was mentioned as a large part of that. Obviously, tactical issues and the players themselves, etc. But they said that the spirit that he forged there,
right,
within them, Ryan Giggs probably hasn't got, not outwardly, the personality that Chris Coleman's got to do that. So if he was to keep his assistant there, Ocean, he could maybe help Giggs develop that, because Giggs will have the respect, one, as a player. Not sure he's got the personality that Coleman has got, although he is very popular with current players as well, isn't he? And ex-teammates, etc. He's a good lad.
Here's one for you. Say Ocean Roberts gets it. It could become Ocean's 18, Ocean's 22.
We finished this subject now.
Well, we'll see how this story develops in the coming days and weeks, I think, and we'll leave that one there. One subject to touch on quickly, I know you've spoken about it on...
That mulled wine still alright?
What's in that water?
The brain's in tune tonight for later, pal, don't you worry.
So this coming Monday, the FA Cup game between Brighton and Crystal Palace will be a game where a video assistant referee will be used, and I know you've spoken about this.
What is one of those? I've never discussed it before.
So
it is being used.
Yes, yeah. And it will be 3 game-changing situations that can come into play: penalty decisions, straight red cards, and mistaken identity for reds and yellows. Happy with it coming in? Yes.
As I say, I think we spoke on this subject before. I think something's better than nothing. I think, a lot of TV pundits and say, well, we'll have nothing to ever talk about on a Monday or a Thursday night, but I don't believe that. I think even bringing this system in will, there'll be lots to talk about. I think me and Matt were speaking before we went on there. One referee or assistant referee's interpretation of a challenge is different to another one's, and so there'll still be lots to talk about. I heard something today about not taking too much time over decision making, and not seeing the 6 or the 10 clips from every angle that they have these days on the cameras. If the referee wants the decision making quickly, you may see something from 2 angles that looks like a penalty, say for instance, but when you see it from the other 4, it doesn't look like a penalty. So all that could come into play, depending on how the referee calls it to the video assistant. So there's still a lot of water's got to go under the bridge before this system becomes perfect.
Well, it has been trialled elsewhere, and there have been the incorrect decisions. There have been lack of communication between the different people who are officiating with this system, and the delays to games. So there are other things to come into it. Now, there's one point that you mentioned earlier, Gerry, when we were talking about this, and it was kind of Americanising things a little bit.
Yeah.
But talk us through what you think should happen.
Well, you just mentioned the delays to the games, and I think if you involve the crowd somehow in that delay, however long it is, then that will sort of play a part in the intensity building up to the referee actually making a decision, which will become news in itself.
Well, yeah.
Because if he gets it wrong, if the ref gets it wrong, imagine if they put it on the big screen in the corner of the King Power Stadium.
You want a countdown?
Yeah. Well, no countdown, but say to play some like music. You know what I mean? I don't know, the final countdown. There you go, or whatever, and so everyone can see the decision that the video assistant referee's about to make. All the crowd can see it, and that music's played. Dun, 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 dun.
Does he just come back from New York?
I know what you mean, but you don't know how long that delay is going to be, do you? When you start the music?
Well, start it straight away and then change it up.
No, we'll need a panel to decide when to start the music for the countdown.
Well, that'll do then.
On a panel, but
we'll get Lewis on the button.
I think it's good that they're just trying to integrate it slowly, or as slowly as possible, with the penalties, the straight cards, and the mistaken identities. Yeah, because otherwise, if you start trying to overcomplicate it, it'd be chaos early on. Because as you say, there's confusion reigns. From a technical sense, the referee might press the wrong button, or that's not working, or microphone's not working. All sorts of scenarios, isn't it? But yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Because it happens in rugby union, doesn't it? And they look at it from, I don't know if they have screen, probably not,
You can't have 30,000 people stand around just wait.
Yeah,
you have to try and fill that time gap with something.
Start reading the programme or something.
And that was one of the biggest issues over it, was the time delay. But if you fill that time delay with something that keeps the crowd involved in the actual decision-making process, even though they're not directly involved in it, then it just adds to the tension and the outcome of the decision.
You're not quite sure how you do it, but I like the idea.
And a big firework display at the end. We'll see how it all goes, and of course being trialled Brighton v Palace on Monday night. More on the FA Cup to come, but just gone at 6:15, and our first big discussion of the night, and it is about the January transfer window.
Turn it on, you watch it for 10 minutes, nothing happens, and I'm very, very often, I have to tell you, I switch it over and I'll watch a good cooking program. I watch Rick Stein, pan frying a nice bit of sea bass.
Live on LCFC.com, Facebook and Twitter, you're listening to Thursday Night Live on LCFC Radio.
Evening, so if you're just joining us, welcome to Thursday Night Live on LCFC Radio. My name's Lewis Mason, I'm joined by Gerry Taggart and Matt Elliott, and this evening we're talking about the January transfer window. Here we are in 2018, the first couple of days, and already the rumours are flying around left, right and centre about certain transfers, but the question we're asking tonight, chaps, is it a good thing? The January transfer window. What are your first thoughts? Opening comments, Matt Elliott.
Mixed views on it. Again, we were speaking before coming on air, and I was trying to remember if we actually had windows when we were first playing. It didn't.
No,
we didn't, did we? It was just straight through to the end of March, or January through beginning of March.
It was March sometime,
etc. Then that was the cut-off point. You could go on loan, couldn't you?
Yes.
To the end of the season elsewhere, and there wasn't a lot wrong with that, really. I'm trying to remember why initially the windows were brought in. Is it to create a bit of interest, media-wise, and gives everyone something to talk about? Because I don't know what the issue was really. Being able to, if you said there's no transfer for just in the summer, then it's harsh, isn't it? Because you might receive a lot of injuries. I don't see why you. I suppose it's there to make it sort of relatively fair to the other clubs, because you might have a club, who are being outmanoeuvred by, say, a Man City who've got all the riches, and they're being rivaled by someone else who haven't got as much money, need the money, and then bang, you just go and take their star striker out the way and try and prevent that. I suppose we're just limiting it to windows. I don't know really, but for me it's as much as sort of a publicity thing, media thing that creates the interest. On Sky there's a countdown, isn't there, to the end of the window. You must watch every second of every day of what's going on, and a load of I don't know if it's irrelevant, to be honest.
Well, the question is, why did they bring transfer windows in?
That's what I mean. I'm trying to remember exactly why it was initially.
What was the reasoning behind it? Because for me, the only people I see winning out of transfer windows is the players and the agents. One way or another, whether you're a selling club or a buying club, they're the
main beneficiaries, aren't they? Yeah, the players and the agents, for sure.
Exactly.
They can put the squeeze on, can't they?
I'm not saying that
clubs can put squeeze on other clubs,
but then that filters down to even to a selling club, because they may have to replace that player with another player, and they're going to have to pay over the odds for that.
Swings and roundabouts with that one.
So, for me, the only people that win in this are the agents and the players. Now, I totally agree with what you're getting. On Sky Sports News, it's an absolute blast for those 30 days.
And I think that's the main reason why it goes. People take interest in who's going to what club up to the start of the season. Then you've got another month. It's like a secondary transfer window. Once the season started, because there's still that interest. Transfer
rates are inflated unbelievably, especially in January. We've just seen it with Van Dijk going to Liverpool. It was 50 million, 55 million in the summer. He's now been sold for 75 million. So it's 20 to 25 million over what he was meant to go for in the summer.
Because those clubs are desperate for whatever it is they need.
Liverpool are in a great position to go well in the Champions League, finish top 4 again, and obviously they're still in the cup, in the FA Cup. So why? So that inflates the price. Why don't we just go back to the old system?
Some people will say, Tex, because
it's boring.
One is boring, but there would be ongoing interest, wouldn't there? So I don't think it would be boring myself, because there would always be interest of some sort. But you're saying about the prices inflated, but some people would say, okay, we don't mind that, because it generally benefits the lesser clubs, wouldn't outside the top 6, because those Champions League clubs, they're the teams they're not going to buy someone from Chelsea, because Chelsea aren't going to give them, are they? But Van Dijk, so Southampton get that 75 million. People say, fair enough, but
listen,
I know it has a knock-on effect in other areas.
Let's say Southampton go back to Celtic and try and nick one of their centre halves where they got Van Dijk from in the first place, and paid, I don't know, I think it was 12, 15 million for him.
Yeah, so we've got to sell on that though as well.
Yeah, they've got to sell on, but now because they've got 75 million for Van Dijk, you can bet your bottom dollar they go back to Celtic and look for another centre half. That price has now become inflated because it got 75 million in the bank, and that's where it filters down. So in the
instead of 10 it'll be 15.
I'm talking in the fairness of football, from being, it depends what side of the football fence you're sitting on. If you're talking from you're inside, you're working inside football, you're a manager stroke coach, then for me it's not for. If you're on the opposite side where you're involved on the outside, you're a fan, media, whatever, then it's absolute brilliant. It's brilliant airtime, brilliant news coming out, because it just keeps the money go round going. It keeps the media thing going round and round and round. But from inside football, I don't think you'll see too many managers coming out and saying, can't wait for the January transfer window to open.
No, and also, I mean, it has effect, like say, from that perspective, your concerns mid-season sometimes. Am I going to lose this player and lose that player in the window? And it all gets overemphasised, exaggerated at that time. You can get distracted from your work. Whereas if say the window was either non-existent at all or open all the way through to March, you'd be less concerned about it. You'd have to get the mentality to go, well, what will people be? If someone's going to come in, I can't sit there worrying all season about someone coming in or not.
So you had it where it was open. As a player,
I don't see what was that wrong with it back then. and I think, I don't know, someone tell me better, but I think it was changed just to spice it up as much as anything, to make it more dramatic. There's a window when you can buy these players and there's extra focus.
People make panic buys. Clubs panic because they're in, say, a situation like a Swansea or a West Brom, and an owner may well panic, or a board may well panic and go, right, well, there's 30 million, go out and get this player, and he turns out to be an absolute dud. It's happened in the past. It'll happen before.
True.
Because of what Matt said, it's all condensed into a 1 month period. okay, at the beginning of the month it might not be too pressurised because you've got the full month to work through who your options are. But when those options one by one fall by the wayside, then the pressure hits, the panic sets in, and then you end up doing things that you wouldn't normally do, and that means spending money on players you wouldn't normally spend that money on, and that's where the confusion. That's why I don't think it's a good thing.
I just want to touch very briefly on the player's point of view, because you said obviously when the window is open you haven't got that condensed nature and the kind of pressure on it. How does it affect you as a player when you start hearing little rumours about yourself and you're being linked with places? Obviously now it's heightened because of that short window.
I'll tell you now, well, I was going to let you speak, but you hesitated. Right. Managers used to tell you, especially when I was playing, the clubs were coming to watch you, and it sort of made you. Now, I played for a selling club in Barnsley at the time, okay? So that was fine. And they would let you know before the game, right, whoever's coming to watch you tonight. And that would make you, refocus even harder and say, all right, I have to go out and play well tonight. I don't think that happens today.
No, not necessarily for the club, but they'll get wind of it that that club are interested in looking at you via their agents, etc. When they got,
correct,
that in that way. Rather than going through official channels. I mean, I think in my experience it was a bit of a mix, really, because when I was at Oxford, over a period of time, even at Scunthorpe actually, that they were supposedly big clubs coming to watch me, and I coincidentally had one of my worst games ever when there was about 9 teams there from Liverpool, Newcastle down to Oxford. Oxford just about decided to take me on. They were the smallest club out there, so I set myself back a little bit. Probably a couple of years, really. If I played well that one more night, it was my own fault, but reasons we won't go into. But then going to Oxford, it's funny how it works, isn't it? Because you used to get rumours, people regularly coming to watch. They weren't sure about the Premier League. They thought, is he too slow? Is he going to be able to handle the Premier League? Eventually, Martin O'Neill came in with an offer, and this was going on for about 6-8 months. And I thought, I'm playing as well as I possibly could. So I had that inspiration, motivation that Gerry was on about for a while, and then I was thinking, if I'm not going now, I'm never going to go. And then I became a bit tense about it, because then they said, well, there's one more chance, they're still coming. I thought, I better play well today, because of what I'd experienced at Scunthorpe. One bad game could have scuppered everything, and so it was quite an intense situation, isn't it? Because when you actually get a little bit older, like I was, 27, 28, actually realise the importance of it. 19, 20, you just get on and crack on, don't you? But it was
so the answer to your question is it does affect it.
Yeah, it does. No, it does. It can be both positive, stroke negative. Some people freeze. Jose Mourinho's come to watch me, or something like that. But that's all part and parcel of becoming professional footballer at a decent level. Well,
it's a subject we could talk about for a long time, and of course you can keep the discussion going on our Facebook page and our Twitter feed as well at LCFC. Right now, let's take a look back at Leicester's last fixture, and it was a very happy new year.
Can Leicester City kickstart 2018 with a victory? Tommins, can he shape to shoot on the edge of the box? Riyad Mahrez is back in there challenging. There's the strike from distance. And again gets it back on Albrighton. First time ball in. There's Slimani! What a tip over. Jonas Yossel might have been going in any event. First real chance of the game on 6 minutes. There's the ball over the top of Mounier to chase. There could be a break on here. We've got 2 men forward. Was that a foul by Harry Maguire? Referee said no. Get on with it. Here is Albrighton. 1-on-1 with Louvre. Albrighton, he's done well. Can he get something out of this? There's the ball in. Again a good ball in. Slimani forces a save from Jonas Yossel. The ball over the top from Albrighton. Good ball as well. Mehrez! What a goal! Riyad Mahrez! But credit to Mark Albrighton. A hooked ball back over the Huddersfield defenders. First time ever from Mahrez. What a finish! Leicester City get their noses in front on 52 minutes. Wonderful first touch from him. Mahrez, Okazaki is away. First touch just lets him down slightly. There's the free kick. It's not going to count. You can see the referee.
He's not touched him.
Ince on the turn. There's the reverse ball. Looking for Aaron Moy. He too wanted to thread that through. Mahrez. Slimani just needs to hold his line. Black stays down. What a chance for Slimani! Slimani has scored! 2-0 to City. There's the ball in. There's the header. Oh, and it's off the bar. It's Ndidi who'd come to the near post area. Great header. Got above his man. Huddersfield goalkeeper beaten, and he's clipped the upright. And here is that change. And a standing ovation. And he's waited since the summer for what, 5 minutes of action this afternoon. Adrian Silva, £22 million signing from Sporting Lisbon. And his hopes of getting some competitive action well documented because of some paperwork which was late, we understand. The move now ratified, and he's going to get, what, about 5 minutes here to make a name for himself now.
And he's getting a standing ovation.
Here is Slimani. Slimani's done brilliantly to ride a couple of challenges. Easy ball out to the right side. Damari Gray wants it. Here is Gray. Gray, what's that handball? Chance for Brighton. There's the third. Well, I thought the referee was going to blow. There was a possible case for handball. It's not going to count anyway. Goes out to the far side, and it's all Brighton. Coming in on the left-hand side, terrific right-footed finish from him, and that's the icing on the cake. Leicester City 3, Huddersfield Town 0.
There we go, that was last time out for Leicester City. A convincing win at home to Huddersfield. A very nice New Year's Day present for the Leicester City fans. Had a good game, especially second half. First half wasn't so fantastic, but second half Leicester really sprung into life and they just took over, didn't they?
Yeah, as soon as Mahrez weaved his magic, that was it, wasn't it, really, from that moment onwards. I think you saw the body language of Huddersfield and the energy sap out of them, really. They put up a decent fight of it in the first half, didn't they? It's funny, people talk about fatigue and tiredness. Leicester got stronger as the game went on. I suppose you could put that down to Huddersfield, decreasing their efforts. But yeah, two great goals, wasn't it? And Mahrez was the instigator of everything, wasn't he? And after that, everything followed.
Mark Albrighton as well, another good game for him, and yet more assists.
Yeah, he keeps doing it, doesn't he? And I'm not saying people write him off, but I think some people think that maybe they're waiting for his race to be run, but he just keeps producing the goods. You always know what you're going to get with Mark, which is 100%. But his quality in the last month or so has just been right up there tops. Some of the goals his crossing and setting up the goals have been fantastic, and now he's just coming in. You've seen on the game there on Monday, he just came in back post where he should be. All good wide players should be, wide forwards, whatever you want to call them. We don't call them wingers anymore. In there at the far post just to slot that home. So he just keeps going from strength to strength. And this, if there was one player you wanted in the trenches over the festive period, it's Mark Albrighton, because he's the one player that can just carry on up and down that lane.
Yeah, I was looking back to the Liverpool game. Like before that, I was thinking, because I knew there were going to be a problem down Leicester's right-hand side with Amate. They're going to target him, weren't they?
Yeah.
At Liverpool. I thought, listen, I know you get the rewards and the benefits with Mahrez playing right-hand side, cutting in on his left. We know about that. But that could be counterbalanced one by, I thought, Liverpool away, Albrighton play on the right for a little bit and see how you get on, because Robertson was flying forward, wasn't he?
All their stuff was coming down.
Yeah, Amate, people were saying to me, he's struggling a bit. I felt sorry for him. He was pretty much 2-on-1 for the majority of the game, getting a bit of assistance from Ndidi, not a lot from Mahrez in that particular game. But so that's one attribute that Albrighton's got, that defensive side. He can cross a ball as good as anyone, particularly from the right-hand side. So that's another reason why I wanted to see him there. And I was actually advocating before the game, if Slimani's playing, I'd put Albrighton on the right, because he's got a better chance of getting on the end of crosses for me.
Instead of checking back.
Yeah, that checking back.
Chance,
it's a defender stroke goalkeeper's ball, isn't it, once you've done that?
Well, it's that split second, or that second it takes to check back from your left foot onto your right and then cross the ball, gives your defenders a chance to get back on side. If you've broken that line as a forward, as soon as you check back as a wide player, defenders are back on the right side, of the defence, as it were.
It's okay if you're a midfielder timing one from deep. Centre forward's already gone. And I felt sorry for Slimani first half. I mean, we looked at each other, didn't we? We were like, poor bloke struggling.
He had one ball, didn't he, where he was offside?
Yeah, from offside. Yeah,
no, was it from Albright or was it from Fuchs? I can't remember.
No, that was Fuchs. Yeah,
Fuchs. Yeah, where he was offside, and that was it for his first half.
I know, and he was trying his absolute socks off, wasn't he? And it just wasn't happening. But credit to him, it's just a refusal to accept defeat, and he just through his mate Mahrez. Between them, they managed to spark him into life. I thought he was exceptional second half.
Yeah, second half.
He was holding people off, wasn't he? Nice little flicks. He did a little Dennis Bergkamp turn at one stage and brushing people off, getting in the box. More of that would be nice, and I think he's just played himself out of a possible movement in January window, hasn't he?
And another standout moment from the game was the arrival of Adrian Silva, a standing ovation across King Power Stadium, and he looked pretty tasty in that 5 minutes, didn't he?
Wow.
Oh, Gerry, yeah.
Yeah. There was only 5, and you can't tell a lot from 5 minutes, but what you can tell is, one, he loves the ball, he loves keeping the ball, he loves passing the ball. Two, he's a box-to-box player. We've seen him get in the box, and that third goal, if it hadn't have been handballed or deflected, he was putting that in the back of the net.
And he made a little track back as well.
And then he made 2 or 3 track backs.
And didn't he?
Yeah, and so...
He just watching him warm up, you can tell he's a good player. He moves well, doesn't he?
Oozes class. He may be slightly on the smaller side of 6 foot, it's fair to say, but I think what we're going to see is a player, along with Vincent Iborra and Matty James, those 3 are very, very comfortable in the ball, willing to take the ball under pressure, but they know what they're going to do with it when they receive it, especially under pressure. And those 5 minutes, I mean, I don't know if the crowd helped them or not, but it was just fantastic.
Well, the ideal scenario then.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
I mean, 2-3-0 up as it ended up, and to go on, Huddersfield were beaten.
Yeah.
The space was there, and he didn't do anything extravagant, but
it's still not easy though. Do you know what I mean? It's still not easy to just come on, even though it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And all right, the opposition are beat, but it's still not easy to come on and just say, all right, just click into gear and just get on with it. It's not easy to do. You have to have some mental capacity just to get on with your own game.
Matty James deserves a mention as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it fantastic.
He looked fit as a fiddle.
Yeah.
Because one thing I think about his game, he's you know more than me, Gerry, because you've worked up close with some of the boys, but he's as neat and tidy as any player, I think, in the squad. But it's just sort of maybe his mobility and his durability that are questioned. But he was there, and everywhere. Yeah, he looks a yard sharper than I've seen him before, and that's in his first real comeback game. So hats off to him as well. He's got a dilemma in there now, Claude Puel. I mean, you've just mentioned 3 excellent ball playing, top level midfielders. And then he mentioned Ndidi, who's the top tackler in Europe, never mind Premier League, isn't it? So.
Well, we'll see what happens at Fleetwood. That is next up for Leicester. We'll talk more about that very shortly, but right now on Thursday Night Live, it's time for this. Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Live with me, Lewis Mason, and our regular duo of Leicester City legends Matt Elliott and Gerry Taggart. Coming up, we'll review the week's action from around the footballing world, put Gerry and Matt's FA Cup knowledge to the test in this week's head-to-head challenge. It's called Luck of the Draw, and we'll also look ahead to Leicester's game this coming Saturday away against Fleetwood.
Live on LCFC.com, Facebook and Twitter, you're listening to Thursday Night Live on LCFC Radio.
So, very good evening and welcome to the show, and evening to Matt and Gerry. How are we?
Good evening, Lewis. Very well. Good evening, Matthew.
Gerald, you okay? Glad to see you've covered up that horrendous T-shirt of yours before the programme kicked off.
Glad to see you haven't covered up that horrendous jumper of yours.
I know, yeah. I've been spotted sea fishing earlier.
It's a student's jumper, that, mate. I'm
a student of life. How you been, Lewis?
Well, yes. Do you like the jacket?
No, you're too smart.
Easy young lads nowadays.
It's the sort of thing we used to be able to get away with.
Back in the day. Now, the reason you're probably wearing a jumper is you haven't quite, defrosted from last night.
Just feel the cold, yeah. Exactly.
Holmes Park.
Oh, you're not wrong. The lads told me wrap up and be prepared on that gantry, but it was swirling wind, wasn't it? Icy cold last night. I had a scarf on, turned into a hat. But yeah, the football was quite good though, quite entertaining. Unlike myself, seemingly. But yeah, that was good. It was the first time I've seen the 23s play this season, and yeah, I was pretty impressed with them. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't really beat 7-1.
Wrong number anyway.
It's number 8, I can see. Right, your first question. Which National League side beat AFC Wimbledon in the third round of last year's FA Cup competition?
Last year?
Well, it's not this year, is it?
Of course. AFC Wimbledon, National League. I didn't pay a lot of attention to the FA Cup in the early rounds. I knew this quiz was coming up. I'd have done my research. I'm waiting for it to come to me. So, yeah.
Need an answer.
I can't even think non-league. Boston.
No, it was Sutton United. Gerry, pick your question.
What am I doing? Sutton, Wimbledon, caught up from down the road, Epsom.
Ah.
Ridiculous.
Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Live with me, Lewis Mason, and our regular duo of Leicester City legends Matt Elliott and Gerry Taggart. Coming up, we'll review the week's action from around the footballing world, put Gerry and Matt's FA Cup knowledge to the test in this week's head-to-head challenge. It's called Luck of the Draw, and we'll also look ahead to Leicester's game this coming Saturday away against Fleetwood.
Live on LCFC.com, Facebook and Twitter. You're listening to Thursday Night Live on LCFC Radio.
So, very good evening and welcome to the show, and evening to Matt and Gerry. How are we?
Good evening, Lewis. Very well. Good evening, Matthew.
Gerald, you okay? Glad to see you've covered up that horrendous T-shirt of yours before the programme kicked off.
Glad to see you haven't covered up that horrendous jumper of yours.
I know, yeah. I've been spotted sea fishing earlier.
It's a student's jumper, that, mate.
I'm a student of life. How you been, Lewis?
Well, yes. Do you like the jacket?
No, you're too smart.
These young lads nowadays.
It's the sort of thing we used to be able to get away with
back in the day. Now, the reason you're probably wearing a jumper is you haven't quite, defrosted from last night.
Just feel the cold, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Holmes Park.
Oh, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The lads told me wrap up and be prepared on that gantry, but it was swirling wind, wasn't it? Icy cold last night. I had a scarf on, turned into a hat. But yeah, the football was quite good though, quite entertaining. Unlike myself, seemingly. But yeah, that was good. It was the first time I've seen the 23s play this season, and yeah, I was pretty impressed with them. Yeah. Yeah,
you can't really beat 7.
Not easy, son. Not easy that.
That's a ridiculous question.
Well, that's good news for you because it means I've probably got a hard one to come. Although this is random. Number 4.
In 1972, Hereford produced one of the biggest FA Cup shocks of all time, beating Newcastle. Ronnie Radford scored the famous goal.
The answer. But who was the commentator?
No, Ronnie Radford scored the famous goal to take the tie to extra time. Who scored the winner?
What was the score?
2-1.
Don't answer any. Don't give him any more.
Who scored? I don't know.
Don't give him any more.
Just guess.
I don't know.
Give him the question.
What, a Hereford player?
Just don't answer any more.
It's FA Cup history.
Did Hereford beat them though?
Don't answer any more.
Is that what it says? Quick. Is that what it says?
5, 4, 3, 2.
Toshak.
See, you can't do that.
Go.
Who was it?
Vicky George.
No chance. Charlie George, maybe.
Here we go. We will get there. Number 3, Mickey Thomas played for Everton, Manchester United and Chelsea, but will be remembered fondly for his third round goal that knocked out Arsenal in 1992. Who was he playing for?
Rubbish.
Wrexham.
Rubbish. Oh, so that is.
There we go, 2 up. You need to get a little bit of...
move on.
Yeah, move on would be good, yeah. What we got?
That was easy.
Here we go.
Right, 2.
Number 2. In 1933, Herbert Chapman sacked an Arsenal defender on the train home because they gave one of the goals away in a 2-0 third round upset. But who did they lose to?
Leicester.
Walsall. Go on, Gerry.
Who was it then?
Walsall.
1933.
Yeah, of course. It sticks in the mind well, though, doesn't it? Walsall.
Number 6. Leicester City have been runners-up in the FA Cup on 4 occasions. When was the last time?
1969.
That's actually correct.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
There we go. That's 3 to Gerry. But do you know what? I need to ask you this one because, it's about you. So this one goes to Gerry.
What number of pick?
Yeah, no, well, Jerry's already won.
Make out your own rules, man.
Yeah, Hereford love a cup upset, as we've heard. So luckily, Matt Elliott spared Leicester's blushes to take the 1999 third-round replay to extra time. Who struck a winner for City?
Oh, I don't even know that. I can't even remember you scoring. Muzzy.
I do. Oh.
Muzzy, is it?
Yeah, he's got it right.
How's your luck?
And then,
if you can't even remember it,
just to get one back for you, Gerry Taggart scored an FA Cup goal in 1994 for Barnsley. Yeah, he scored a goal. Against which side did this come?
Don't know, don't care.
Oh.
Do you know, Gerry?
No.
I was going to say, hang on a minute.
Plymouth Argyle.
Plymouth.
There we go. That is it.
Shame you ain't got any Plymouth.
I tell you what, it's not too bad, is it? Because you've
battered him.
one back. Is Matt Elliott?
I've absolutely battered him.
Comprehensive.
Matt Elliott 4, Gerry Taggart.
Come on.
It's about that first question, isn't it?
Talking points on all things football with former Foxes Gerry Taggart and Matt Elliott. This is Thursday Night Live.
Good evening and welcome to the show. If you're just joining us, I'm Lewis Mason, joined by Gerry Taggart and Matt Elliott, who have just completed their latest game, and that's in a right old huff. However, he does still lead the series by 4-3. And right now, we're going to talk about the FA Cup. We just had a bit of a warm-up with the game, and it is FA Cup third round this weekend, which is such a special fixture and a special weekend in the sporting calendar. But is it as special as it has been in previous years and maybe previous decades?
In my view, no, not as much so, but maybe that's an age thing, an era thing, I don't know, because, when you're a youngster and you're growing up, you can literally remember not just who was playing who, I remember most of the teams from back in the late 70s and early 80s, because you used to sit there on your settee and watch it all day. But I suppose, from my view, it seems a little bit of a sign of the times that there are other things to focus on, people want to see it, so many channels, etc., and other sports. But it was not rammed down your throat. It was there, wasn't it? It was such a massive occasion that the programmes before running up to it, even in the quarterfinals, etc., the previous rounds, it was such a big thing because there was such little else to watch and entertain you. It's a different environment now. So I think, but if I don't know if
you're right.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? But if you ask the players or youngsters who are focused on and love football, they might give you a different answer. But it doesn't seem to have the edge for me. The competition in general, and there are so many reasons why, really, without going into detail, but you've got the emphasis on Champions League, the finances are so important.
It was one of the only live games that you could actually watch as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, of course.
During the season. I mean,
because it used to be match of the day and on the ball on a Sunday, wasn't it?
And so the
big match was it?
There was a big match, but it was one of the few games that you could sit down. And I know stories of people saying that they made a whole day of it. They would have barbecues and all kinds of things, FA Cup days on the streets. So it was a massive thing. I think the way football has changed and the way it's been televised, and with the Champions League changing its format, and now that's become massive as well. And
the semi-finals being played at Wembley cheapens it a bit. It all does. They say it does, and it does.
So, yeah, it does. But as a player, I'm sure there's still players. The players still, want to go to Wembley and play in an FA Cup final. Yeah,
but it has changed, though, hasn't it? I mean, the emphasis, and not necessarily to the detriment of the FA Cup, but with a positive in another aspect. The emphasis on the Champions League.
Put it this way.
But players like Bobby Stokoe. Right, Southampton, 1978 was it? I think. He's still known now, 40 years down the line or whatever, for his achievement in that one cup final. They don't know nothing else about his career, but players now, I couldn't tell you who won the FA Cup 3 years ago.
Who let's put it another way. Every club in the Premier League would rather finish 17th than win the FA Cup.
And go down, and win the FA Cup, yeah.
Well, they'd rather stay in the Premier League and lose and go out in the FA Cup as long as they stay in 17th
That's
spot.
what I mean, yeah.
Well, apart from obviously the top 6, but a lot of teams from.
I see what you're saying. Sorry, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So that's how the interest and the magic and the glory of the FA Cup has sort of lost its way a little bit.
I think the clubs would, not necessarily the supporters. Had this conversation not so long ago. Yeah, some supporters would actually take.
I'm on about if you're an owner of a club.
Yeah, no, exactly. The owners, 100%. But even the supporters are part of the feel of it all as well, aren't they? As much as anyone else, obviously. But some supporters, surprisingly, with Leicester City, they were saying, "Oh, I don't mind." They'd take relegation and winning the FA Cup over being 17th. I disagreed. I was like, "No, you need to try and progress the club." And they said, "Well, mate, you've won a cup." Playing at Leicester City, albeit the League Cup. I was like, yeah, even so. I think it's important that the club stays there, and that might be a bit.
There's also the finances involved.
Mercenary, maybe.
Winning the FA Cup, there's nowhere near come close to staying in the Premier League. The finances that are involved. The prize money for the FA Cup again, sadly, for whatever reason, are just nowhere near the riches of finishing 17th. And so, as a business, which all football clubs are now involved in Premier League football.
Well, you wouldn't want to do Portsmouth, would you? Or Wigan?
No.
Win the FA Cup.
Excuse me.
And disappear down the league.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's because they won the FA Cup. It's just how it transpired. But being in that Premier League is everything.
Massive.
It's everything, isn't it? Unfortunately, that's how it is, yeah.
And just quickly, if you had to pluck out a memory from playing days of the FA Cup, what would be the one that sticks out for you?
It wouldn't be a good one.
I don't want to talk about
it. No, we don't talk about this game.
To be honest, didn't have too many highlights in the FA Cup. I mean, one of them was against Chelsea when we played them here down at Stamford Bridge. Mike Reid gave away the penalty that wasn't, and all that effort and all that stress that came out and frustration that came out.
And the year after, when George Weir scored a goal that he fouled Phil Gilchrist in the box.
Yeah,
when it was 1-1.
Suspect, wasn't it? Yeah, that one. But the Wickham one, there I mentioning. Oh dear. Yeah.
Beating Arsenal at Filbert Street on penalties. That was some night.
Yeah. That was a replay, wasn't it?
That was a replay.
0-0 down there. The only time we ever got a result. Highbury then back up here. Somehow we kept them at 0 for. Over 210 minutes, whatever it is. Yeah. How did we do that, by the way?
Know.
Oh, dear.
That's the best memory. There's been too many bad ones.
I've got to say,
exactly.
If Gilles Grimandi hadn't missed his penalty, I was up next.
Cheers, Gilles.
And so he saved my bacon that night, Gilles Grimandi, because he missed the penalty. And we were in sudden death. Emile Heskey was turning around to me going, Tags, you go next. And I'm saying to Emile, you're the centre forward. I'm a centre half. I said, if you get up there, you score. I say, and then I'll take the next one after if they miss. Thank God, Gilles Grimandi didn't score. He missed, and then we went through.
Yeah.
Well, let's hope some new memories are going to be written this weekend away at Fleetwood. How are you thinking this game's going to go? It's obviously one of those sticky ones, really, isn't it? That Fleetwood are going to be bang up for it.
Yeah, it's just the location up there, isn't it? Hours away travelling and. That's in the players' mind. I know they're used to. I mean,
but you've just heard about we struggled against Hereford, who were in League Two away.
Hereford, Wickham.
It happens.
I think it's a tough one. And it maybe. I mean, I think it'll make changes as well, don't you?
Yeah, I think it'll make some.
I know there's a few enforced through injuries.
But, I know, but because of who they're playing, like a League One side, then he will make some changes. I think
he'll do that. And I was going to say maybe. It will suit those players coming in because they'll be rolling their sleeves up to try and impress, etc., rather than going into it.
But I know
on the back foot. What about Millwall last year? I mean,
exactly.
You only got to look at that to find out how tough Fleetwood could be on Saturday.
Well, one of the big subject matters has been Jamie Vardy. Will he play against his old club? We've actually been catching up with Jamie this week. Of course, he had the big 50 Premier League goals, and this is a bit of a sneaky peek because this isn't going to be on the website until tomorrow. But he has been going through his top 10 goals from that time, and here is one of them.
Man United at home, making it 11-11. Just remember doing what we're really good at, and that's breaking from one end of the pitch to the other in a matter of seconds.
Plenty of height again in the area. Smalling trying to peel away. It goes in towards the centre of goal. Schmeichel comes out and collects the ball at the second attempt.
And Casper coming and claiming a ball, throwing it straight out to Christian, who's took a couple of touches and, as he always tells me, fires in a no-look pass.
Boots now on the right-hand side, he can drive forward. He's got support in the form of Mahrez, Okazaki, Vardy, and
into my path, and I've managed to slide past the hair.
Dangerous ball from Bath and Vardy. Chance for a shot. Vardy! It's in! Listen to the noise! That's the sound of Premier League history being made by Jamie Vardy. 11 consecutive goals in Premier League games.
Celebrations, obviously knowing that I've got 11 in 11. I couldn't tell you what I was doing properly. It was just spur of the moment stuff and running off really energetically, saying it was all mine.
Jamie Vardy talking about one of his favourite goals from that 50, and a whole lot of them will be on our website tomorrow. But will he play at Fleetwood? That's the big question.
Jamie Vardy, I want to play. Whether he plays or not, it's a different matter. Obviously, we've heard from Claude that he's carrying a little something or other, and he will probably be banging the manager's door down and saying that he's fit to play. But, Jamie Vardy is a vital member of the Leicester City squad, and somebody I feel that Claude Puel can't do without. And there's, unfortunately, maybe for Jamie, there's bigger fish for him to fry out there, and that doesn't come in the form of Fleetwood in the FA Cup. But for him, I'm sure he wants to play against Fleetwood without him shut of it out. Will he will or not, I couldn't answer that.
Yeah, if he was 100% fit, I think he'd be on the bench. I think he plays Samani. Yeah, after last week, with it being third round of the FA Cup and all that, and he's had a busy schedule, hasn't he? But obviously he's feeling the effects of that injury that he picked up. Presumably it was against Liverpool. Didn't feature last weekend. Is he going to risk it? If he's fit to play, even with that injury, I think at best he'll be on the bench and only brought on if required. 5-10, if necessary. Hopefully not.
Just to give the Fleetwood fans another look.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of that, but sentiment. You haven't got time for sentiment, really, have you? In an ideal world, it's only if you're in a really luxurious position.
Claude Puel, I will understand that this is where Jamie made his name at Fleetwood.
Yeah.
But Claude Puel will be single track minded towards we need to finish as high as possible in the Premier League, and I need Jamie Vardy at the forefront of that. Yeah, exactly. So the question's open to debate. There's no.
Fleetwood have got their reward. They've got the the transfer fee.
Did you know? Here's a stat for you, by the way. Did you know that there was a 45% upturn in soft tissue injuries in December than there was in November, which is quite incredible.
Yeah, no, ordinarily they would expect an 8 to 10%. But that's because of the time of year, maybe, a little bit fatigue setting in. So, but 45%,
Your top players are going to have cotton wool all over them, I'm telling you.
It's crazy, though. It is crazy. I mean, to play on, the 30th and the 1st. Wes Morgan's injury, you couldn't put that specifically down to overstretching it. He slipped a little bit, didn't he? But, as a consequence. But, yeah, you say those stats, they tell you a story.
Of course they do.
React on it. Why couldn't Leicester have played 29th and 1st rather than 30th or 30th and 2nd, whatever it is? It's a ludicrous situation, really. The demands that they're under, it's going to 48 hours, not enough.
And we talked about some of the youngsters maybe getting a run at the weekend. Is there anyone in particular that you really would like to see? Maybe someone who's not maybe been given a chance in the first team for a little while?
Harvey Barnes.
He's played all season for Barnsley, and they really like him at Barnsley, and I think they were very disappointed when Leicester called him back. So he's not coming back just to clean his boots and play for the 23s. I think there's a good chance we may see a bit of Harvey Barnes on Saturday, and I'm looking forward to that because he's a player I've seen a bit of. And he really excites me, I've got to say. So he's one to keep an eye on to break into the first team for me.
Excuse me. Yeah, without a doubt. And I think you're right, Joe. He's been brought back for a reason. If you're going to test him anywhere, again, maybe from the bench. I don't know. Other players, Iheanacho, is it an opportunity for him? Not sure if it's the environment for his mentality, to be honest, but we'll see.
Well, we will see. Quick score predictions from you, Matty.
Oh, I'll go 2-0.
And Gerry?
I think they'll score, so I'll go 2-1.
Well, that's it from us here on Thursday Night Live. Thank you very much, boys. We will be back with Matchday Live on Saturday. Gerry, John Dunn and myself, as that FA Cup third round action does continue, or the third round kicks off at Fleetwood. Kick-off is at 12:45. We'll be on air for free for an hour before that, and for all the build-up, followed by full match commentary. We will see you then. Have a fantastic evening.